Do you want to learn how to get healthy, perform at your best, and create body composition changes that last? In this podcast, we're going to talk about all things fitness, nutrition, health, and mindset. You're going to learn how to create real results, and most importantly, how to maintain those results in the long run. I'm Johan.
I'm Kristine and Johan.
And you're listening to Talking Nutrition. What's up, and welcome back to episode 9 of Talking Nutrition. How's it going?
It's good. I'm proud of us for being so consistent with this.
Me too. I was actually thinking about that before we got on. I was like, shit, it's episode 9 already. Like, we've been doing quite a few right now in a short period of time. So, so far, so good.
I was listening to Cody, or I saw him post something, was it yesterday? And he was he has done 800 episodes consistently.
That's 100 times as many as we got so far. Yeah. Can you imagine though, like 100 times as many? That's nuts.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Insane, and that's really fucking cool because I don't think a lot of people will stay that consistent.
No,
that's maybe a good lesson too.
I always used to say to him, so he's been both our mentors, and I used to say to him, like, how do you juggle all of this? Like, how do you do everything that you do? Yeah. He's just like a machine.
He is. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to figure out systems for my business as well. Yeah. Because it's like the podcast, and then trying to edit, and then I'll do YouTube, and then right now I got to catch up with the YouTube stuff. And then I'm doing articles, and it's clients and more client stuff, which obviously is the priority. Like, it's a lot of stuff, on your own.
Yeah. Clients for me always take the priority. That's number one, obviously.
100%. Yeah, definitely.
But I go in and out of being like really in with social media and like my mail list. Honestly, that's a weakness of mine. Okay. So like, I'll be like in my mailing list and like really good. And then I'll kind of like back off a little bit. Then I'm like all in on my Instagram. And then I'm like, oh, like this week I'm struggling on Instagram. I'm like, I just don't feel creative. I don't know what to post. And he's just like, bing, 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 bing for like 10 years straight.
Oh, yeah. It's nuts. We'll get there, though.
We're one-man team. Okay, one-man team. He's got like a big team.
Yeah, that's true. Well, by now. In the beginning, probably didn't. But
yeah. Oh, no, he definitely didn't. But yeah.
I was going to say, this is a good lesson for the listener, too, because the successful people, of course, now we're talking business and coaching and stuff, but also in health and fitness are the people who are really fucking consistent. Yes. And it's the people who go to the gym and get their steps in, even when they don't want to. Mm-hmm. And I drove to the gym yesterday evening to get more steps in because it was raining outside. It's like 10 almost, I'm like still on the treadmill, like feeling like an idiot. I got to get one. But anyway, like it's the people who do that stuff, right? The boring stuff, eating your veggies, drinking your water, getting your protein in, going for your walks, training if you don't want to. Of course, also when you do want to, but going to bed early, all that stuff. It's just people who stay consistent who are actually successful, right?
Right.
And that's probably the hardest thing we need to learn as well as.
And it's normal to like have one thing kind of fall off, and then you're focusing on other things, and then something will fall off, and then you restart it again. Like it's normal to do that. Like it happens. Like I said, it happens to me all the time. Like especially with my mailing list. Like, but I always go back to it. Yeah. I don't just completely give up on it.
And that's what matters.
Yeah.
So guys listening, if you miss your proteins for a couple of days, it's okay. You start eating more protein again the next day.
Right.
And the same with your steps and all that, it does ebb and flow. And you can't be perfect all the time, and that's okay.
No.
So let's get into the episode, right?
Yes.
Another Q&A. I really like this format, and we actually already got some quite good feedback on the previous one.
Did we?
So we figured let's do a few more, right? So if you don't know, I mentioned this last time as well. If you want to submit a question or just a struggle or whatever it might be, go to my Instagram, go to Kristine's Instagram, go to that link in our bio and scroll down. You'll see a question box, or just DM us. That's fine too. But submit a question, and we'll definitely take that in consideration for the next Q&A episode. So a couple of questions we're going to start with. First is going to be tips to stay full between meals. Then we're going to get into realistic fat percentages, carb cycling. We'll talk about proper home workout schedules and maybe a little bit more. But you want to start it off with the first one?
Yep. So the first question was tips to staying full between meals. Eat a big breakfast, but very hungry between lunch and dinner. So the first thing that comes to my mind here is that someone's calling me, is that between lunch and dinner, that's a long period of time to go without food. So this is actually like not a complicated thing. I would simply add in a smaller meal, smaller snack between lunch and dinner, right? So when I'm eating, I have breakfast, lunch, snack, dinner, or it's a smaller meal, right? So simply just eating something between those two meals is going to help with that hunger. And this can lead, if you're not eating enough during the day or like you're missing meals, that's what can sometimes lead to like binging at the end of the day because you're just so freaking hungry, right? And then balanced meals. So we've talked about this before, right? So getting a protein, a carb, fat, and fiber in each meal is going to help to keep you full, keep you satiated. You're not going to deal with as much hunger just because it slows down that digestion process. So those are my two big things for that. Obviously, under eating, you're going to be hungry. That's going to lead to more hunger. But yeah, just adding in another snack is going to be better for you than potentially dealing with a ton of hunger at the end of the day. And then you end up kind of blowing things out of the water because you're super hungry.
For sure. I think that's a good one too. Like diving a little deeper, like what does the food that you do eat look like? And as you mentioned,
Yes.
Balancing meals. I feel like it's a very common one where people try to eat too clean or too low carb or too low fat or, low protein, whatever, like low anything really. That's why people tend to kind of like run into just being, hungry again within 30 minutes after their meal,
Yes. Yeah, you want those meals to be satiating.
Yeah, definitely.
Those are my tips.
Cool. All right, so I got this question in one of the initial assessments. So this is from a client who I worked with. He asked me, what is a realistic fat percentage goal and how long will it take? So right off the bat, I told him, well, I can't answer that second part because how long it'll take, I don't know. Like we've talked about those, the weight loss percentages and stuff. Do you hear the car coming by or the motorcycle?
I did, yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay, sorry. But we talked about the weight loss rates and stuff, but like adherence is a big one too, right? Because we can't really like plug a person into an equation and say, okay, you're going to be losing 1% per week or 0.5 per week. Yeah. It doesn't really work that way. Most of the time we're not perfect and that's okay, but usually adherence, like that's that number one thing that's very difficult to actually figure out, getting consistent. And that's why we don't know how long something is going to take. Might be short or relatively short if we don't want to lose that much, plus we're super consistent. Might take a really long time, especially if you're trying to learn tracking and trying to learn how to actually stick to, a diet or a deficit, I should say. And I told him, like, I don't know the second part of the question. Now, the first part, though, is important to talk about because I don't think that fat percentages are great goals for most people, at least for most of the people that I work with, right? Who are not trying to get like next level, like super lean, shredded, basically, where it might be beneficial to go on a DEXA scan a couple times, Realistically, we are not going to be able to really figure out your fat percentage. Sure, we can use the scale at the gym, which, by the way, is super incorrect, just so you know. We can get into calipers, which is a great way to do it if you can actually use it. Personally, I've never used them, so I wouldn't know.
I have. I used to use them.
Yeah, and that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to learn how to use them. And you even see that with measurements, like just with the measuring tape, it's already difficult to get into, right?
Yes.
So that's why typically I say, hey, a fat percentage, let's maybe not use that as our goal. But okay. It's just too hard to measure, right? And I feel like that's almost like a tool that that the gyms like to use, right? Because they'll get you on that scale. You're probably wearing clothes, which weigh something. You probably ate food. You drank water. You get on the scale, and you're like, oh shit, I'm heavier than I thought. That can be a great way for a gym to tell you, hey, maybe you should buy our supplements too, or you should buy, our meal plan or whatever. I'm not saying that's always how it goes, but that's, one little method that a lot of people do use, or a lot of gyms. Long story short, it's hard to measure. Plus, people store fat completely different, right? You might be the same fat percentage as someone else, and you might look different. It's mostly genetics. Some people are lean or have like visible abs at like 20% body fat. Others might not have them yet at 15,
Right.
So that's maybe another one. So, again, makes it difficult to really figure out, okay, what are we aiming for? And I also don't think that most people should actually go super low. And this is maybe like social media's fault or influence, A lot of people on steroids, let's be honest. On the
a lot
models
more than
actors.
you think.
Yeah. And I feel like that's often a lot of people follow on Instagram and TikTok and whatever. And you see these people like saying like, do this ab workout or, take these fat burners, whatever it might be. Like they look absolutely jacked, and people think, oh, I got to follow their meal plan to look like that. Yeah, it's not really going to happen. So like with these unrealistic expectations, I just don't think like a fat percentage is a great idea to kind of chase, Sure, like if you want to look leaner, if you want to get shredded, if you want to have a six pack, that's cool. But I think there's more to life than a fat percentage, and it can be a tool to measure. It's just very difficult. And one thing that I didn't mention is that you can drink a little bit of water and be leaner because water is not body fat, right? So it's going to show up on the scale. So even with a DEXA, which is considered like the gold standard, like even there's a lot of things you can do or kind of mess up to, influence that scale. So long story short, let's maybe not use it. Maybe use photos, and use the metrics as your measure to see, am I making progress? Yes or no? But don't make it the goal.
Yeah, I don't focus on body fat percentages at all with my clients. None.
No.
And when you're talking about where people store fat, it's so funny. I was thinking about this the other day. I personally have been reverse dieting myself, and I've put on a little bit of body fat, and I'm noticing. So, I've always noticed that I put it on my legs, my butt, and this is for a lot of women. Okay. So I have abs. Okay. But I also have a higher body fat percentage because I'm getting it in my legs and my butt. And the other place I get it is my face, my cheeks.
Oh, same, yeah.
Yeah, like you can tell in my face. And then you have other people who gain body fat and their face doesn't change at all. It's just, it's really interesting. And it's all, genetics.
Yeah.
And hormones and things like that. But yeah, everyone's going to store it differently.
Yeah.
And usually so you're probably going to say the same thing as me right now.
Probably, yeah.
It's the places you want to lose it the most, they're the most stubborn.
Exactly. We didn't even write this down, but 100%. Yeah. That's like word for word what I was going to say.
Like my legs,
definitely.
I've always had insecurity with my legs. And if I go into a deficit or anything like that, that's the very last place I lose it. And it's hard because I have to go like steep, really steep to get to that point. And like sometimes I'm just like I would rather eat food and have more body fat, than try and live in this like super steep deficit and be grumpy and moody and just not feel good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So There's a trade-off there.
Yeah, definitely. It's usually not worth it. For most people, and that's okay, right? Like we're not trying to jump on like a bodybuilding stage.
No.
Like some people might, but our clients,
no.
At least for me, like I have none of those clients, you know? No. And that's okay. You know, it's just a different kind of goal.
Right.
But what it takes, I think people are not aware of what it takes to get that lean.
Oh, that insane measures.
Yeah. Insane deficits, insane adherence, being very strict, very diligent, having very little flexibility. And yeah, it's a lot of trade-offs that you, if you want to get that lean, need to be making.
Very moody, not sleeping well, no libido, potentially losing your cycle. Like all of those things come with that, can come with that.
Yeah. And this is where we need to remember a low body fat percentage is maybe not the healthiest.
No.
Even though we think that, you know, like, or we, like, people in general, it's like, oh, this person has a six-pack. They're like the healthiest person in the world. Well, no.
No.
You probably feel like shit.
Yeah, I wrote a post on this a while back saying like having a six-pack doesn't equate to you being healthy, and having body fat doesn't equate to you being unhealthy. Like there is a reason like for females why we shouldn't be going into lower body fat percentages, because it's extremely important for our overall hormonal health. It's important for men too, but they can get to a leaner body fat percentage without any, issues happening. But for females, like body fat's a good range of body fat is important for us for our overall health.
Yeah, totally. It's still okay to go a little bit leaner from time to time, but just be aware that that's not going to be all the time. Because then if it's long term, like then it's going to be bad for you health wise.
Yes.
And I like to think that even though, sure, we're chasing physical goals and performance and all that, we're still trying to do it in a healthy way.
Yes.
Yeah. And in the long term, like that's really what matters. All right.
Third question. Do you feel like carb cycling is more beneficial to eating the same amount of macros each day? So carb cycling is essentially you have higher carbs on some days, lower carbs on other days. No, it is not more beneficial. It can be a tool used. Do I think that... let me backpedal there. Sometimes you see athletes doing this. Like I've noticed that in the past, athletes are like really people who are, training multiple hours a day, et cetera. They kind of got into this, and I'm not really sure why, but it can actually hinder performance and recovery. You have to think about it. So you have a normal day, of carbohydrates, then you lower it on your rest day. Now you're potentially not getting enough carbohydrates in to recover from the previous training session. And then again, now you're low going into the next training session. So the next day. So it can impact that. For like the Gen Pop, I don't think this is necessary at all. And it kind of overcomplicates things again. Like we want to keep things as simple as possible. Why not just keep things the same across the board and have a higher carb intake each day? Like, to me, there's no real benefit to it. I was going to say that I have done like calorie cycling with some clients. Based on like scheduling, sometimes it can be helpful for someone to like lower their calories some days or increase them on the weekend, just to have more flexibility. Like I've done that, but not necessarily doing this carb cycling. I just like to keep things simple.
Yeah. It just makes it more difficult to stick to. And guess what happened with the few clients who I tried carb cycling with?
What happened?
Then managed to stick to it for a week.
Yeah.
So like, in both cases, actually, only two people, they were like, I kind of want to try it out. I was like, okay, cool. Why do you want to try it out? I just want to try something. Fair enough. okay, cool, let's do it. Let's see how it goes. Didn't last for a week. So gave it another week, and I was like, you know what? Let's maybe not do it. It's okay. You know, maybe we try it. Maybe it could have worked. Maybe it could have been a great way to stay on track. In this case, that just didn't work like that, and that's okay. I think we need to also address whether we are in a deficit or at maintenance. Personally, I don't see the point at maintenance at all. No. I could see it in a deficit if it's simply, and this is like, training aside, like this would be if it's simply to have more over the weekends, right? And to allow for like a Friday, Saturday, a little bit more at maintenance, and during the week you go lower.
Yep. Oh, another tool you can use this for is females during their cycle. So say you're a person that tends to like fats more, and you're eating more higher fats and like lower moderate carbohydrate, but around your cycle you tend to crave carbohydrates a little bit more. You could then increase carbohydrates that through that period of time just to help you, with those cravings or that extra hunger. That's another good tool where you could potentially use carb cycling.
Good point. If you could stick to it, I'll add.
Right.
But yeah, it can be great actually to do it that way. Cool. Next question. What's a proper home workout schedule? Check out KA training. No, like actually like get a program, like let me just tell you right off the bat. A couple of things we need to like consider when we're looking at a proper home workout schedule. First of all, I think it's important that you do what you enjoy, right?
Yes.
We can always talk about like how, resistance training is the best for body composition, which it is. And, maybe CrossFit is great for performance, and running is great if you want to build your endurance and all that. But as long as you do something that you actually enjoy, you're probably going to be sticking to it a little bit longer, right? Because I had a client of mine a while ago, and she just really hated training. Like she didn't want to go to the gym. She hated everything with weight. We talked about the benefits it can have, and also for body composition and all that. She simply didn't want to do it. So I was like, okay, cool. Fair enough. Let's figure something else out that you enjoy. And she ended up doing some cycling and some other things like jump ropes and stuff. So I was like, okay, cool. Like we still got you to exercise because you now found something that you actually like. So I'll put that, as priority number one. The proper home workout schedule would probably be somewhere around 3 to 5 times a week. It mostly depends on the person. But I think when you're working out from home, depending on the equipment that you have, that could be a good rate. Now, what we want to do in terms of a split could be full body. If you do like 3 times a week, I'd say just do something full body. You might want to break it up a little bit more, and if it turns into like 4 to 5 times. But once again, it's really going to depend on what you have. Do you have dumbbells? Do you have a barbell maybe? Do you have a pull-up rack? Do you have kettlebells? Like, do you want to jump rope? Like, there's so many things that I unfortunately can't answer in this podcast, But either way, preferably with weights, if you do enjoy doing that, if you're open to trying it out. A lot of people are doing this for body composition goals, which does require weights if we want kind of like optimal results. Ultimately, I'm going to still push you to go to the gym though. And I've done this with a few people, like, every other check-in or so, I kind of like mention it, like I plant the seed, like I talk about like how the program would be if you would go to the gym or when you go to the gym. I still try to like plant that seed because I do think, and of course it's a personal, choice. But if we eventually want to graduate, and start to do different stuff, more advanced stuff, get better results, then it's probably a good idea. Unless you can afford like a home gym, to actually go to a gym. It doesn't cost that much, a membership at a global gym. But I do know that for a lot of people, it is a insecurity. And it is scary. I remember that like 10 years ago, like being, pretty heavy. And I say overweight. Yeah, I was overweight. And going to the gym and I remember like the exact moment, like walking in and being like, fuck, I don't, I hope no one's like watching me, and that's scary.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people at the gym are probably thinking the same thing, They either just focus on themselves anyway, or they're kind of thinking the same thing, like, oh fuck, I don't hope like no one watches me squat like weird or something,
Everyone's had a day one. You have to keep that in mind.
So if it's an insecurity thing, I'm still going to challenge you once again. I'm going to say, go to the gym.
It's an environment change too, which can help. And I find like I have like I train here most of the time because I do have everything pretty much that I need, but I will still go to the gym because you're changing your environment, and I get like a boost of energy when I'm at the gym, just from other people's energy and being social.
Yeah. So it's a nice change of scenery, right? And I think it's important too to kind of get out of the door. And honestly, I wish I had a home gym, but I think I'd still do the same thing too. Like actually get out, and even if it's just for the walk to the gym and back, like that's already one way for me to get my steps in, but also get some fresh air. But the reason I was laughing just now was like before this podcast, I was on Instagram, and there's this page, and like every video, this dude is like, go to the fucking gym, go to the fucking gym. So that's why I was just laughing, like not because of that it's scary. Just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
But no, I think like if it is an insecurity thing, be okay with getting uncomfortable and go anyway. If you're just starting out, don't overthink it. Just get moving, but try to get a program, preferably something that includes like progressive overload, where you either progress in heavier weights or reps or whatever. If you want, check out Kristine's app. I'll link it in the show notes as well. But try to follow a program and try not to like do super random stuff and different stuff all the time. And like in the beginning, maybe that's fine to kind of like figure out what you like. But I think an actual program, something that has a structure, is going to get you better results no matter what you do.
Something I will add there is if you do have insecurities about the gym, the first time you go, just go and walk on the tread. Like you don't have to do anything. Just get a little bit more comfortable with the environment. And then if you are planning to do some sort of program, look up the videos before, practice the movements at home, get comfortable with the movements, and then that will help you feel a little bit more confident in the gym. And another one is bringing a friend, like go with a friend. Again, you're getting more comfortable with the environment and you're with someone so that's going to make you feel a little bit more comfortable.
Helps a lot. Good point too, like looking at the movements before going to the gym. And also like pretty much every gym like probably comes with like a tryout session, so ask a personal trainer. Usually you get at least one free session where they can show you how the movements work, how the machines work and all that. Highly recommend it. If you don't know what you're doing, like just ask someone, because that's literally why they're there,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But like I said, I do know that it can be scary for sure.
Yeah.
All right. I think we covered quite a bit. We talked about staying full between meals. We talked about the realistic fat percentages. We talked about carb cycling and a proper home workout schedule. Thank you guys for submitting questions. I think it really helps us kind of address what you want to learn about. And like I said, I just really like this format. And yeah, let's do it again.
Thanks for listening, guys.
All right. See you next time. Thank you for listening. If you want to help us grow the show, please make sure to leave us a 5-star rating or share this episode on your Instagram stories. Now, if at any point you feel like you need more help, you can always reach out to Kristine or myself directly via any of the links in our show notes, because we're here to help. Thanks again, and I'll talk to you in the next episode.